Ever heard that Massachusetts conceals a huge peninsula sculpted by glaciers more than 20,000 years back? Or that some of the planet's biggest whales cruise its shores annually? And get this, the peaks in its far west are part of Earth's oldest mountain chains. Way beyond its colonial villages and independence tales, Massachusetts boasts terrain forged by fierce natural powers, thundering Atlantic waves, timeless peaks, and Ice Age sculpted vistas. Buckle up because we're diving into 35 mind-blowing geographic wonders of this incredible state. Believe us, the last few will shock even locals who've lived there forever. Fact 35. Ghost towns submerged under 1 billion gallons. Right in central Massachusetts sits the Quabbin Reservoir, the state's biggest lake not touching the coast. The wild twist? It wasn't there 100 years ago. In the 1930s, with Boston booming and thirsting for more drinking water, officials took a radical step: drown a whole valley for a giant new source. Ambitious, divisive, and utterly upheaval-causing, the plan wiped out 4 towns flat. Dana, Enfield, Greenwich, and Prescott got evacuated and razed. Folks by the thousands abandoned houses, fields, and ancestral roots as waters rose to claim the basin. Now it seems like pristine wilds, serene woods framing endless watery expanses. Yet under those chilly depths hides a submerged saga. A deep diver might spot remnants, faded roads, basement pits, sturdy stone bases from daily lives long gone. It's an eerie natural monument to humanity's drive to overhaul the earth for advancement. Fact 34. The peak offering views of 5 states in one sweep. Towering over western Massachusetts woods stands Mount Greylock, the state's loftiest summit at 3,491 feet. Sure, it's tame next to Rocky Mountain giants, but its magic's in the spot. Standing solo amid lesser heights, the vista from up top is epic. On a sharp, haze-free day, sights sprawl way past state lines: Massachusetts' wavy hills, Vermont's verdant ridges, New Hampshire's snowy whites, New York's craggy uplands, and Connecticut's remote fringe. One pinnacle lets you plant feet in a single state while eyeing 5. New England's top scenic overlooks don't get better. Fact 33. Giant rock basins etched by prehistoric streams. Head to Shelburne Falls Village, and you'll hit one of Massachusetts' weirdest rock wonders, the Shelburne Falls glacial potholes. Forget road craters from snowmelt. These are colossal round pits gouged into bedrock. Over 50 huddle riverside, the biggest nearing 40 feet wide. Formed roughly 14,000 years ago, as ice sheets thawed from the Ice Age finale, raging melt streams barreled downstream, hauling boulders and grit. The cool trick? Eddies pinned rocks in bedrock dents, whirling them like living augers. Over millennia, they bored ever larger, smoother hollows. The scene feels like colossal artistry, a behemoth spoon dishing out glossy pools and burnished stone clusters from the stream floor. Fact 32. The bizarre, boxy notch on the south line. Glance at a Massachusetts map, and a quirky southward square bulge into Connecticut jumps out along the bottom border. Dubbed the Southwick Jog, this oddity has baffled cartographers for ages. Its roots trace to colonial times. From 1642 to 1804, the colony line was shoddily mapped and endlessly fought over. Without precise tools, old surveyors botched readings left and right. Errors snowballed, boundaries veered off, rival grabs muddied everything. Ground zero, a mere 2-square-mile sliver near Southwick town. Small as it was, it ignited years of feuds and court clashes between the colonies. In the end, much of the line got fixed up and aligned properly. Yet Southwick's locals fiercely advocated staying with Massachusetts over joining Connecticut. They got their way in the final tally. These days, that compact square indentation still juts into the tidy border, serving as an odd landmark of colonial mix-ups and age-old haggling. Fact 31. The volcanic mountain ridge that runs the wrong way. Cutting through western Massachusetts lies the oddball Holyoke Range, a lineup of peaks that defies typical geography. While most North American ranges stretch north-south, this one slices east-west, popping right off any map. It took shape roughly 200 million years back amid the Triassic and Jurassic eras, thanks to fierce volcanism and grinding tectonic shifts that remolded the area. Primarily built from durable, dark volcanic basalt, often dubbed trap rock, that once surged as liquid lava over the ground. In time, gentler sedimentary layers around it wore down steadily. But the toughened lava held firm, crafting a lengthy, elevated rocky backbone towering over the valley floor. The real intrigue lies in its creation. Perched atop a huge, slanted fault block, hoisted and tilted by deep earth pressures, yielding sheer drops and bold inclines throughout. Such harsh terrain fostered special microclimates on the bluffs and crests, sheltering uncommon plants absent elsewhere nearby. Essentially, the Holyoke Range stands as a colossal volcanic survivor, a time-worn geologic feature on full display for eons. Fact 30. The Jurassic playground preserved in stone long before humans existed. The Connecticut River Valley was a whole different scene back then. In the early Jurassic, it was a steamy, marshy lowland where giant reptiles tramped over soggy flats. Its low spot routinely trapped mud and silt layers, setting up ideal fossilization for tracks. Those soft grounds eventually turned to sandstone, sealing old prints into stone like a snapshot from deep time. Now Massachusetts boasts one of Earth's biggest troves of dinosaur tracks. And they're not faint smudges. These are strikingly sharp, with distinct three-toed marks from beasts like Dilophosaurus and the tinier Growlitore. Adding to the weirdness, 1800s discoverers first pegged them as giant ancient bird steps, not dino prints. It took years of digging to confirm they were from fierce meat-eaters that ruled the turf. Visiting these spots today lets you gaze at the very ground a huge predator trod some 200 million years ago, bringing the area's ancient history right into view. Fact 29. The drowned hills scattered across Boston Harbor. Dotting Boston Harbor are 34 intriguing islands and peninsulas, tracing origins to the latest ice age. They're an uncommon geologic breed, drumlins, sleek tapered mounds molded by glacier motion, composed of jumbled glacial till-like clay, sand, gravel, and rock shoved into heaps by vast ice walls. Imagine dragging a spoon's edge through wet clay. That's the teardrop profile of a drumlin. Over 15,000 years ago, mile-high glaciers crept over future Boston turf, molding sediment mounds smooth and narrow in their path. The kicker came later. As ice retreated and oceans climbed, water swallowed the gaps between drumlins. Lowlands vanished underwater, stranding hill crests as islands. Thus, the Boston Harbor Islands stand alone globally as a half-submerged drumlin swarm, a stunning blend of ice sculpting and tidal change. Fact 28. The island created by the edge of a massive glacier, the famous summer getaway of Martha's Vineyard, owes its very existence to the immense force of an ancient glacier. About 21,000 years back, the enormous Laurentide ice sheet advanced southward over North America, with its front edge coming to a halt exactly where Martha's Vineyard sits now. At that icy frontier, the glacier acted like a sluggish conveyor, dragging vast quantities of rock, dirt, and rubble gouged from northern terrain as it inched ahead. Upon reaching its farthest point, it released all that material into a single enormous heap. Scientists refer to such a deposit as a terminal moraine, which creates the rough, undulating spine along the island's western flank. A prime example of this glacial handiwork appears in the striking Aquinnah Cliffs, composed of old clay layers and sediment packed with fossils that got thrust up from the ocean floor as the ice sheet bulldozed the terrain. This yielded the signature hills and bluffs that characterize the island presently. Had that glacier not paused right there millennia ago, Martha's Vineyard probably wouldn't be here. It'd just be another sunken portion of the continental shelf under the Atlantic. Fact 27. The giant sandy hook stretching into the Atlantic. Folks often picture Cape Cod as a string of stunning beaches, yet geologically, it's a huge glacial peninsula jutting roughly 65 miles into the Atlantic. Similar to those nearby islands, it took shape thousands of years ago from the Laurentide ice sheet's withdrawal. Some 18,000 years ago, as the ice retreated and thawed, it deposited massive loads of sand, gravel, and rocks. These built up into broad outwash plains that evolved into the landform we recognize today. However, the Cape's iconic hook-like end by Provincetown wasn't directly carved by the glacier. Rather, it's the product of millennia of ocean dynamics continually molding the shore. Over the past 6,000 years or so, waves and currents have eroded sections of the peninsula, transporting sand northward via longshore drift. Due to this ongoing shift, Cape Cod remains a dynamic feature. Certain beaches expand with accumulating sand, while others erode and vanish bit by bit. Put another way, the Cape isn't some static relic. It's a living, evolving landmass still sculpted by Atlantic storms. Fact 26. The African wanderer resting on Plymouth's coast. Plymouth Rock is famed as the Pilgrim's Landing site, but its rock-hard history outshines any settler saga. Experts label this boulder a glacial erratic, a huge stone snatched by a glacier from its origin and dropped far away. The twist? The granite in Plymouth Rock isn't native to New England. Its mineral signature aligns with African bedrock. Indeed, this piece of crust hailed from Africa back when continents were joined in the supercontinent Pangaea hundreds of millions of years ago. As Pangaea split, this stray fragment hitched a ride, eventually settling silently on future North American shores. Fact 25. The lethal sand traps lurking beneath the waves. Right off Nantucket lurks one of the North Atlantic's most dangerous secret perils, the Nantucket Shoals. These vast submerged sandbars and ridges extend nearly 40 miles out to sea. In places, depths plunge to a mere 3 feet, making it a shipwreck cemetery spanning centuries. Local currents don't just ebb and flow, they whirl in fierce loops, perpetually reworking the seafloor. The craziest detail? The shoals are so hazardous that the International Maritime Organization advises big ships to avoid them, designating the zone among the sea's deadliest stretches. Fact 24. The lake with America's longest name. Nestled in Webster is a lake boasting a quirky claim, the longest official place name in the U.S. Locals shorten it to Webster Lake, but the full moniker, Lake Chowbunagungamaug, clocks in at 45 letters. Rooted in the Nipmuc tongue, It loosely means underscore underscore quote, underscore zero, underscore underscore the kicker. Its notoriety surged in the early 1900s, thanks in part to a publicity gimmick or tongue-in-cheek hype. A newspaper editor from the area once suggested it translated to something along the lines of, quote one. Though that's largely a fun bit of folklore, the name draws from real Native American roots and has been officially acknowledged for more than 100 years. Now, it serves as an odd yet legitimate spot on the map, perfect for baffling folks attempting to spell it out on a postcard from the pretty lake dotted with its island shores. Fact 23. Bashbish Falls and nature's dramatic drop. Nestled in the state's southwest edge, amid the Taconic Mountains, Bashbish Falls claims the spot as the region's highest single-drop waterfall. The water cascades over jagged stone steps before diving almost 60 feet into a sparkling emerald pool at the base. This impressive natural wonder took shape over thousands of years, with meltwater from glaciers roaring through the tight canyon and etching the terrain from tough, metamorphic rock. The sheer walls around it consist of durable schist, a tough rock that's resisted wear much better than surrounding softer stones. And get this, the falls straddle the Massachusetts-New York line. The prime viewing spots fall on the Massachusetts side, but its isolated spot lends a sense of ancient, secluded wilderness, mostly unchanged since glaciers pulled back about 12,000 years ago, a raw, jagged foil to the soft, undulating farmlands close by. Fact 22. The massive sand dunes overtaking the woodlands. Right at Cape Cod's outer end, the terrain flips from classic New England views to a scene straight out of the desert. Vast dunes sprawl over thousands of acres, endlessly reshaped by brutal Atlantic gusts. Formed from delicate glacial sand left behind around 18,000 years ago, they've been whipped into huge parabolic ridges by non-stop winds. The real kicker? These dunes aren't standing still. They're on the move, inching toward a land at a few feet annually. As they march forward, they bury stands of pitch pine and oak, creating spooky ghost forests of tree skeletons locked in sand. It makes for an eerily stunning vista in constant flux, showing how nature's might can overhaul the seemingly solid in a geological instant. Fact 21. Billingsgate Island, the town lost to the waves. Back in the 1800s, a lively fishing hamlet flourished on Billingsgate Island near Wellfleet's shore. In its heyday, it had over 30 houses, a school, and a prominent lighthouse steering vessels safely across Cape Cod Bay's tricky seas. But the surprise? It was essentially a giant glacial sandbar, super vulnerable to the ocean's fury. By the early 1900s, brutal storms, tides, and endless erosion had wiped Billingsgate off the chart. These days, it peaks out only at ultra-low tides as muddy shallows littered with bricks from vanished structures, a chilling testament to how fleeting human outposts are against nature's relentless power, shifting sands, and climbing Atlantic waters. Fact 20. The Connecticut River and its valley's odd slant. Winding through New England, the Connecticut River ranks as the area's longest river, slicing Massachusetts north to south and forming one of the nation's most productive valleys. Its shaping kicked off about 200 million years ago amid continental splitting, when the crust pulled apart and dropped, forming a deep rift. Rather than blazing its own trail like many rivers, it tracks this old fault right down the state's center. Here's the head-scratcher. The river bottom leans faintly eastward, eroding the east bank way quicker than the west. paired with ages of deposits from a long-ago glacial lake that swamped the valley, this tilt has built a broad, level floodplain loaded with world-class farming dirt, silt, and sediment, echoing tales of vanished ice and primeval floods. Fact 19. The secret marble spine under the lush Berkshire Hills. On the surface, the Berkshire Hills offer gentle woods and peaceful vistas. Underground, though, hides a real gem, pristine white marble. This premium rock formed over 500 million years back in the tectonic orogeny, when crushing heat and pressure turned old limestone into shiny metamorphic marble. This concealed marble ridge runs through the western portion of Massachusetts, providing material for some of America's most famous structures. And get this, the dazzling white marble that forms the enormous pillars of the U.S. Capitol and the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., came straight from quarries in the tiny town of Lee. Put another way, the state's own rocks are embedded in the design of the nation's key landmarks. Fact 18. Beneath 5 miles of solid mountain, carved into a bloody pit deep within the Hoosiack Range in northwestern Massachusetts, stands one of the 19th century's greatest engineering marvels. The Hoosiack Tunnel bores 5 meters through tough metamorphic rock, creating an essential rail connection to the west. Work started in 1851 and lasted a brutal 24 years, using risky new explosives such as nitroglycerin. And the truly horrifying detail? The mountain's rock was so unyielding that almost 200 laborers died on the job, earning it the dark name __2___ nearby summits consist of nearly unbreakable gneiss and schist, resisting all tools and methods of the time. Even now, the tunnel serves as a key route for freight trains, cutting straight through what were once impassable, rugged slopes. Fact 17. The artificial waterway that transformed a peninsula into an island. Cape Cod's landscape changed dramatically in 1914 when the Cape Cod Canal opened. Prior to this huge project, the Cape was merely a peninsula, making ships navigate the dangerous, wreck-prone seas around its curved tip. Engineers sliced a passage through the skinniest land section, building the planet's broadest sea-level canal with 0 locks. And the mind-blowing fact? This man-made channel turned the whole Cape into an island encircled by water. At 7 miles long, it harnesses the tidal flow between Cape Cod Bay and Buzzards Bay, producing currents up to 6 miles per hour. More than reshaping shipping paths, this fake river revamped the area's environment and Massachusetts's outline, carving a permanent split between the mainland and the seaside arm. Fact 16. The vast salt marsh functioning as nature's huge purifier. Stretching from Gloucester to the New Hampshire line, the Great Marsh ranks as New England's biggest unbroken salt marsh. Covering more than 20,000 acres, this expansive area features twisting tidal channels, muddy flats, and salt hay meadows, acting as a vital shield for the shore. It started developing about 4,000 years ago, after sea levels steadied post-ice age, letting mud accumulate and marsh grasses colonize the shifting intidal zone. And the amazing thing? It operates like a giant natural sponge, soaking up floodwaters from storms and trapping contaminants before they hit the sea. Geologically, this dynamic, highly fertile system keeps evolving under tidal forces, importing nutrients while flushing out waste. Absent this enormous green buffer, the North Shore would face even fiercer Atlantic assaults. Fact 15. The spooky rocks of Dogtown and its forsaken glacial behemoths. Nestled in central Cape Ann, Dogtown is a rough, untamed expanse dotted with huge boulders. This spot marks a terminal marine, a spot where retreating glaciers dumped countless tons of stone during their final thaw. The bumpy, stone-strewn ground proved too harsh for farming, so pioneers deserted the settlement around the early 1800s. And the bizarre turn? In the Great Depression, a wealthy resident employed jobless masons to etch motivational phrases onto scores of these enormous stones, creating an odd outdoor exhibit of rock-carved inspiration. Certain boulders rival the size of cottages, dragged hundreds of miles by long-gone ice. These days, Dogtown is a maze of woods and boulders, each mossy monolith recounting Massachusetts's icy history. Fact 14. The covert streams flowing under Boston's roads. Folks walking Boston's sidewalks rarely realize full rivers course right below them. During the 1800s city boom, streams like Stony Brook got viewed as barriers or hygiene threats. Instead of bridges, builders boxed them into giant brick and concrete pipes, hiding them far underground amid the crowded avenues. And here's the captivating detail. These concealed waterways continue tracing their historic paths to the sea, funneling millions of gallons of water daily through shadowy underground passages. In Boston's historic districts, if you look closely, the meandering roads hint at the long-lost twists of these submerged streams. Fact 13. The Teton River and its tidal defiance. The Teton River ranks among the state's most striking natural wonders, one of America's rare major rivers that stays mostly untamed, untouched by big dams or intense development. It winds across a huge southeastern valley, famous for its stunning variety of life. But the real oddity comes next. Its tidal influence stretches almost 18 miles inland from the Atlantic. And the craziest detail, since the Teton lies so low and level, seawater surges upriver at high tide, forming a unique brackish area where salt and fresh species mingle. That's why the river flips direction twice daily, bucking the typical seaward rush. The outcome? A dynamic patchwork of wetlands and tidal flats, an ever-shifting terrain unlike any other spot around. Fact 12. The Monadnock standing alone above the Central Plateau. Jutting dramatically from the Central Plateau, Mount Wet exemplifies a monadnock, a lone peak rising high over eroded surroundings shaped across eons. As ice and streams eroded the nearby ground, Wet's summit held firm, shielded by its super-durable quartz diorite. And get this, from the top, the Boston skyline gleams eastward, while the Berkshires loom westward. Despite the distance, this lone giant serves as a natural lookout, bridging coastal plains and wild uplands. Its standout solitude turns it into a key beacon for birds on the move and people crossing the state's core. Fact 11. Purgatory Chasm and the colossal rift in solid bedrock. Sutton's Purgatory Chasm runs for a quarter-mile, resembling a spot where a massive blade cleaved the ground apart. This geological marvel is a huge crack in solid granite gneiss, born about 14,000 years back. As the Laurentide ice sheet pulled away fast, huge floods of meltwater blasted through existing fissures with brutal power. The water's force ripped the rock wide open, leaving sheer walls up to 70 feet tall. And the stunning kicker, huge boulders tumbled from the edges during the chaos, crafting a maze of caves and tight squeezes with names like Fat Man's Misery. Fact 10. The Blackstone River in the steepest descent in the region. The Blackstone River looks mellow at first, but its profile hides a wild tale. From Worcester to Rhode Island, it plunges 438 feet across only 48 miles, boasting one of the area's sharpest drops. That steep pitch unleashes huge energy as waters rush through tight spots and tumble over ledges, etching a route from ancient glacial floods. Tough metamorphic rocks along the gorge channel it into a twisty, forceful path instead of a lazy wander. And the mind-blower, per mile drop in feet, it crushes even the Mississippi's downstream sections. This raw power drew early U.S. industrialists, who lined its shores with mills, fueling the factory boom. Even now, the Blackstone shows how bold terrain molds our past. Its fierce current, a subtle warning of hidden might in quiet flows. Fact 9. The Elizabeth Islands, the hidden archipelago of the South. Though Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket grab the headlines, a stealthier lineup hides southwest of Falmouth, the Elizabeth Islands. This 16-isle chain defines the state's southern boundary and echoes the glacier's final push that built Cape Cod. Like the outer Cape, they formed from terminal moraines, giant heaps of stone, clay, and sand dumped as ice retreated. Up close, they seem like humble dunes, but they're really colossal mounds of rocks, grit, and dirt bulldozed by prehistoric glaciers. Mostly held by one family, they've stayed remarkably untouched and feral, unlike their flashy tourist cousins. And here's the astonishing part. The passages separating these islands, called holes by locals, hide serious dangers. Fierce tidal flows rush water from Buzzards Bay toward the Atlantic at breakneck speeds, whipping up swirling whirlpools, turbulent eddies, and sudden bursts. For hundreds of years, these waters have tested even seasoned mariners, lending the island chain a remote vibe that's escaped most modern intrusion. In a real sense, the Elizabeth Islands feel frozen in time, a vibrant showcase of Ice Age might, fierce shoreline forces, and pristine landforms rarely seen by folks beyond the area. Fact 8. Monument Mountain amid the tough quartzite backbone of the western ridges. Looming grandly over Great Binkton, it forms a stark, pale crest, slicing through the lush green blanket of the Berkshire Hills. While nearby summits consist mainly of schist and limestone, this one stands on Cheshire quartzite, a super-tough, erosion-proof stone forged more than 500 million years back. It started as old beach sediments, buried deep, squeezed tight, and fired under extreme heat and pressure into an unbreakable material that laughs off the ages. And here's the captivating twist. As softer surrounding lowlands and hills wore away from glaciers, downpours, and streams, the quartzite held firm. Across eons, that unyielding strength kept Monument Mountain tall and jagged, creating a bold outline that rules the western Berkshire horizon. Climb its sides, and you can follow the eroded gullies that used to encircle it, revealing the massive earth-shaping powers at work. It's beyond just a peak. It's a natural tribute to the passage of time, a jagged ridge recounting tales of primordial oceans, non-stop wearing, and rock's amazing staying power. Fact 7. The Aquinnah Cliffs and the rainbow concealed in coastal clay. At Martha's Vineyard's far western tip, the Aquinnah Cliffs soar as one of North America's most stunning and quirky geologic wonders. Climbing as high as 150 feet over the sea, they weave a vivid mosaic of reds, yellows, whites, and oranges that shimmer under the sun. Every stratum holds tales from millions of years past, packed with fossils from whales, camels, and sharks that prowled here eons before ice sheets showed up. And here's the jaw-dropping reveal. These flat layers stayed hidden underground for ages until the giant Laurentide ice sheet bulldozed them skyward like a behemoth around 20,000 years ago. That icy shove tilted them almost straight up, bearing an ancient spectrum to weather and wondering gazes. Through countless years, gusts, storms, and surf have kept carving them, unveiling an ever-shifting display of bright stripes and sharp contours. What emerges is a dynamic geologic archive, where each yard of bare clay flips open chapters on lost oceans, drifting land masses, and ice's brutal remake of the island's profile. Fact 6. The Blue Hills and ancient volcanoes watching over Boston Harbor. Right south of Boston, the Blue Hills form a chain of dome-like peaks, the tallest points on the Atlantic seaboard, from Maine southward. They might look like peaceful wooded rises at first, but their calm hides a fiery backstory over 400 million years old. These are the battered leftovers of a colossal volcano chain that once spiked thousands of feet high above the flats. Made of ultra-hard igneous stones like Quincy granite and Blue Hills rhyolite, the latter once glowing lava from primeval blasts, they endure. And here's the head-spinning detail. Their name comes from the faint blue hue the rocks show from afar on foggy days, casting an eerie spectral glow across the harbor. That same toughness let them shrug off the Ice Age glaciers that ground down everything nearby. So they stayed rough and high, dodging development for ages. Now they double as prime vantage points over Boston and its port, plus a vivid nod to the area's explosive origins, a testament that serene exteriors can conceal volcanic fury underneath. Fact 5. Back Bay. How Boston snatched territory from the ocean. A big chunk of Boston's supposed natural layout is pure make-believe, shaped by people instead of the wild. Back in the early 1800s, the Back Bay area wasn't the lively district of stately brownstones and broad boulevards we know today. Instead, it was a vast, foul-smelling tidal flatland, twice the size of the original Boston, filled with mudflats and brackish pools extending to the horizon. With the city bursting at the seams, developers hatched an audacious plan: reclaim land straight from the ocean. From the 1820s onward, Massachusetts kicked off one of the biggest city-building feats of the time. They packed the wetlands with gravel, dirt, and debris, altering the shoreline and rerouting the Charles River to fit the emerging grid of streets. For almost 30 years, the work never stopped, day or night. Trains shuttled millions of cubic yards of material from Needham's nearby hills and farther afield. What emerged was a neighborhood that seems utterly organic but is completely man-made, a shining example of sheer grit and vision. Under those refined brownstones and leafy avenues, thousands of wooden pilings anchor into the mushy-filled dirt. These hidden logs form a quiet, vital base. Should they ever lose moisture, the structures overhead might lean, fracture, or tumble. Strolling Commonwealth Avenue or admiring the grand fronts, you're treading a grand feat of engineering. A metropolis that sprouted from the swamps, thumbing its nose at the natural world. Fact 4. The Merrimack River, a dynamic stream etching the state's northern boundary. The Merrimack River goes beyond being a mere boundary on maps. It's a powerful force that's molded Massachusetts' northeast flank for thousands of years. It snakes past gritty factory towns, driving mills and fueling industries, before emptying into the Atlantic at Newburyport. The drama peaks at its estuary, where the waterway defies predictability and shifts relentlessly. The terrain consists of glacial sands, silts, and junk dumped by the Ice Age's retreat. On this unstable base, the Merrimack keeps redefining its course. A fierce storm or hurricane can shove it hundreds of feet across the inlet in a season, forging fresh paths and ditching the old. This constant flux makes sailing hazardous. The elusive sandbars of the Japan Flats hide just underwater, relocating with every gale and current. Sailors face a channel that rarely matches the maps. In geologic terms, the Merrimack is still sorting through Ice Age rubble, seeking a steady route seaward. Each curve, silt-choked shoal, and forsaken arm narrates a tale of aquatic defiance, where water battles Earth and Earth resists. Even mighty streams can't escape the eternal tango of land and sea. The Merrimack shows nature's powers never fully calm, regardless of the human developments overhead. Fact 3. The Oxbow, when a river sliced itself apart. Tucked in the Connecticut River Valley close to Northampton sits a vivid S-curve lake called the Oxbow. It appears as a peaceful, still pond at first look, yet it stems from nature's bold impatience. The Oxbow perfectly illustrates a river reshaping its route across ages. Meandering streams typically curve and loop gradually over millennia, folding back in broad arcs. Occasionally, though, events speed things up dramatically. In 1840, a ferocious flood roared down the Connecticut, smashing through a thin isthmus and hacking a direct new path in mere days. Previously, the river looped in a massive 4-mile bend, meandering through the lowlands. Post-flood, that curve was severed, isolated from the current, and turned into a glassy, secluded pool. A once thundering river segment morphed into a silent sky reflector. Beyond its scenic charm, the Oxbow stands as a tribute to fluvial might and caprice. It drives home that calm rivers can overhaul terrain in moments when pushed. Nowadays, as nearby fields and farms enjoy tranquil peace, the Oxbow echoes a waterway's refusal to hold still, proof that ancient rivers harbor potential for abrupt, wild upheaval. Fact 2. Stellingen Bank, the underwater ridge nourishing the ocean. Between Cape Cod and Cape Ann sprawls Stellwagen Bank, a massive subsea shelf that's one of the planet's richest ecological hotspots. In contrast to the sharp summits of mountains on land, Stellwagen Bank forms a concealed underwater ridge that's mostly out of sight for the everyday viewer, yet it's vital to marine existence. Carved out millennia ago by receding glaciers, the feature consists of a huge deposit of sand, gravel, and rocks. Even as nearby waters drop to depths of hundreds of feet, the bank's crest sits only 65 feet beneath the waves, crafting a subsea elevation that dramatically influences the waters overhead. The real wonder of this sunken platform lies in its dynamic with ocean flows. When chilly, nutrient-packed depths sweep along the seabed and strike the bank's sudden slope, they get pushed skyward through upwelling. This natural lift hauls vital nourishment right into the sun-drenched zone, fueling a plankton feast, the base of the sea's food web. Plankton draws a frenzy of activity. Fishbacks teem, dolphins dart and breach, and whales converge in huge groups, tracking those flows annually like an unseen supper signal. Stellwagen Bank goes beyond a mere dining spot. It links the vast Atlantic to the protected inlets of Massachusetts Bay. Traveling creatures, juvenile fish seeking protected breeding areas, and the odd shark all rely on its distinctive layout. Under the surface, this underwater peak subtly directs one of Earth's richest hubs of ocean biodiversity. It proves that underwater contours hold sway even in the profound sea. And different from earthly ranges bathed in light, this one molds whole habitats from the shadows below. Fact 1. The New England Seamounts, a secret lineup of subsea behemoths. Massachusetts gets acclaim for its gentle hills and rugged shores, but its most awe-striking peaks tie to the state invisibly, submerged far under the Atlantic. Extending offshore is the New England Seamount Chain, a stunning lineup of over 30 extinct underwater volcanoes formed about 100 million years back. Far from mere seabed rises, these are immense summits shaped by the North American plate's gradual shift across a fiery hotspot in the planet's core. As the plate moved on, it abandoned volcano after volcano, forming a string of drowned colossi, each bearing witness to primordial earth shifts. Their immense size boggles the mind. Certain ones soar over 13,000 feet from the seafloor, almost quadruple the stature of Massachusetts' loftiest land peaks. Still, unlike visible ridges we can hike, these giants dwell in gloom, their tops veiled by thousands of feet of ocean. The astonishing twist? Isolated as they are, these seamounts teem with life amid the endless desolate deeps, oases of biology in a stark void. Timeless corals, oddball sponges, and unique fish species hug their flanks, many exclusive to these spots. Beyond mere geologic oddities, the seamounts act as abyssal refuges, biodiversity centers amid extreme depths and endless night. Flows eddy past, ferrying sustenance that supports an unseen life network. These concealed heights underscore how planet's boldest terrains aren't always visible. Often, the grandest elevations elude our grasp, looming mutely in the depths while steering ocean life.